whispered true crime, please consider subscribing to the channel. I post 2 times a week, on Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I recommend using headphones if you would like to hear the gentle mic brushing. Okay, let's get into tonight's case. Now, when I heard about this one, I was like, I have truly heard it all. But I say that so often, so it doesn't mean much. It's just like, there are so many completely insane true crime cases out there. Now, as you already know from the title, this is the case of the Cannibal couple, as they're called, who possibly killed and ate 30 people. And they were discovered in September of 2017, so it's not some ancient case. You know, a lot of times I feel like those cannibal cases, especially if they had eaten 30 people, that would be a really, really old case. But no, 2017, in Russia. And I just want to remind everyone, and remind myself, that there were real people involved here. Even though it sounds like so impossible, you know, it sounds like just like a horror movie or a psychological thriller. Real people died. So, it is extremely tragic. I have made a point not to include photos of anything graphic or gory, not even blurred out ones, because I personally don't want to see them, and I don't think a lot of you want to see them. In fact, I was very careful when I read articles to scroll very slowly in case there might be a graphic photo that I did not want to see. So there won't be any photos like that in this video. But if you're interested, you can definitely find them just by Googling, but I'm warning you, it's probably a bad idea. Unless you want to have nightmares. But that's enough, let's get to the case. So, as I said, they were found out in September of 2017. It was September 24th. And this all occurred in a town called Krasnodar, Russia. And the couple that we're talking about, their names were Dmitry and Natalia Baksheev. So let's start with a little background. Dmitry was born in 1982, and his parents were drug addicts, and they could not care for him. So he wound up in an orphanage in Siberia, and he was adopted. adopted by a couple when he was 3. he would listen to what she wanted for fear of losing her. So they lived together in what was known as like a dormitory style or like a hostel style apartment on a military base, even though they weren't in the military. But that is where they lived. And neighbors said that their apartment stank. Okay? It was horrible. Just, being outside the apartment, it stunk. And whenever anyone would complain, Dmitry and Natalia would just get so angry that people just didn't even want to complain anymore. But it was bad. Now, one day, it was September 8th, 2017. The couple went out to a bar, and there was a waitress working there. And her name was Elena Baksheev. I might have pronounced that wrong. I apologize. She was 35 years old, and Natalia felt threatened by her. Natalia felt like Elena was flirting with Dmitry. So she said to her husband, "You gotta kill her." And like I said before, she was the dominant one, and he's like, "Yeah, okay. That's fine." So somehow they took her out back, out into an alley somewhere nearby. He had a knife that he always carried, and he stabbed her to death. Supposedly Natalia helped a little bit as well. Then they dismembered her and took most of her home with them to their apartment. A few days later, it was September 24th, 2017, and a construction worker found a phone on the ground. And he picked up the phone. He turned it on. I guess there was no password. And he started looking through the phone. He looked in the photos. And he saw a man holding a dismembered hand. Is that the right way to say it? It was a hand. Just a hand. And it looked real. And the man had the hand in his mouth. Like the wrist was in his mouth and the hand was sticking out. Like I said, I haven't seen the picture, okay? I don't want to see the picture. So they kept scrolling and they saw another picture with the hand in his nose. Like he was having a good old time with this. And it really didn't look like a prop. So he turned it over to the police. And the police were able to figure out whose phone it was. And they confronted Dmitry. It was Dmitry's phone, and it was him in the photos with the hand. So he said, "Oh, that. Well, a few days ago, I was walking home, and I saw a dead body or some dead body parts was filled with recipes on how to prepare human meat in various ways. I mean, it was a full cookbook. It wasn't like one page. She had all these recipes. And on top of a pile of junk, they found a photo. Now, this photo was marked 1999. It was somebody's head on a platter, surrounded by oranges. There were black olives in the eye sockets, and a lemon on the nose. Sounds absolutely ridiculous. But imagine, like, this is a person and they've made such a mockery of them in this way. It is so creepy. So, now, like I said, it was marked 1999, which was 18 years prior to this occurrence. But now I'm thinking, I haven't heard anyone else saying this, but in 1999, Dmitry would have only been 17, and he might have still been in prison at that time, and they might not even have met yet. So perhaps that photo just belonged to Natalia. I mean, she did have a whole cookbook that she'd been curating, so I would imagine she was probably the one with the long history of cannibalism. But anyway, so they were both arrested and charged with the murder of that 35-year-old waitress, Elena. And the authorities reported that all of the parts that they found at the couple's home all belonged to one person, not multiple people. So they were both charged with just her murder. Even though, supposedly, Natalia confessed to having killed and eaten 30 people. And she had gone through a book, like a photo book, of missing persons, and pointed out who the victims were. But the authorities are denying that that happened, and they are claiming that there was just one crime here, just the one murder. Neither of them were charged with cannibalism because it's not specifically illegal, which actually is true for most places, even in the US. And the reason it's not illegal is because there's pretty much no way you could do it without killing a person. So, you know, I guess it's assumed that if you eat somebody, you killed them, and you're gonna go away for that crime. So, they were not charged with cannibalism. So, Natalia was charged with inciting murder, because she is the one who asked Dmitry to do it. And she got a year and a half in prison, plus 10 years in a penal colony. Now, what is a penal colony? Well, I think it's kind of like part prison, part work camp. Like, you spend part of your time kind of locked up, like in a prison, security level kind of thing. It sure doesn't sound good, though, I'll say that. And they had said that she had been tested by a psychiatrist prior to the conviction and was found not to be mentally ill. Now, Dmitry, he was charged with the murder, and he was put in a maximum security prison with a sentence of 12 years and 2 months. And he was also to receive supervision from a psychiatrist, or I guess psychiatric care while he's there, basically. So apparently they found him to be suffering from mental illness, but not her. Maybe. Unfortunately for Dmitry, in February of 2020, he died in prison from some combination of tuberculosis and untreated or improperly treated type 1 diabetes. Now, I don't know when he caught tuberculosis. Some said maybe he had it before he even was arrested, and that's what made him crazy, but I don't know if you can walk around with tuberculosis for a long time. I'm not a doctor, and I didn't do a lot of research into tuberculosis, but I don't know. I'm just saying some people said maybe he had it for a while and that made him crazy, or maybe he caught it in prison. Either way, he had tuberculosis when he died, and he also had complications from diabetes, so that is kind of the official case. But there's a bit more, because although the Russian authorities are saying that much of what I'm about to tell you, or all of what I'm about to tell you, is just rumor, this is what the media had reported at the time. So supposedly the couple recruited their victims through various dating apps, and then when the person would show up, they would drug them, and then they would kill them, they would skin them, dismember them, false allegations that he had slept with Natalia. So he said, quote, "I could have been eaten too. I could have been dead. Last night I had a nightmare that they were making steamed meat from me. Some 6 weeks ago I just survived. They could have eaten me if I had not been in good physical shape." Dmitry said that he was jealous of me and his wife, although there were no reasons for it. It was not true. Natalia was much younger than me. What was he talking about? Suddenly he grabbed a stool and tried to hit me from the back, but I managed to avoid it. I served in the military and know how to protect myself. After that, Natalia jumped on me too, but failed to harm me. I pushed them out of my home, called a taxi, and sent them away. I never saw them again, and now, seeing the news about them, I reckon Dmitry was just feigning jealousy. The truth was that they came to kill and eat me. That's pretty scary. So, that is the case. What do you think? I will tell you a little bit about what I'm thinking. We all surely think that the crime is truly, truly horrific. That's not even a bad enough word. But the question that we all have is, what really happened? Was it just one person or was it 30? What would be the reason for it to have blown into 30 people if it was only one person? People are saying that the government might be hiding it because they don't want to get, any bad publicity for the military base where they were living. It was a prestigious military base, and they don't want to bring any kind of crazy scandal there. So maybe that's why they don't want the full story out there. I mean, even if it is one murder is horrible as it is, right? And how come he only got 12 years and she only got 10 years for murder? That sounds kind of low, but that's what it was. So, but, I mean, Dmitry is gone now. But Natalia, she'll be out. I mean, I think she was convicted in 2019, so she'll be out probably by like 2030 or so, because she had 10 years plus a year and a half. And she seems like a truly dangerous woman. But anyway, did they kill 30 people? Well, like I alluded to before, I think she might have been doing it before she ever even met him. So she had a head start maybe, but he was probably doing it with her as well for a while. I mean, does it seem likely that she would have written an entire cookbook and only had one victim? No, it seems like it's a book that she was working on over the years, after a lot of experimentation with recipes. So, I kind of think that there may be truth to what the media is saying, but then again, who knows? So, I am going to leave it at that. My heart goes out